What is going on today, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Fix It Garage. It's time to get this Volkswagen wired up completely so we can get that part of the project all done. But before we can start putting all the wiring in the car, we have a project that we need to finish on it. If you guys remember, we started to work on the engine harness for the computer and all of that, and we stuffed it in a tote and let it be for a while I figured out how I wanted to approach it. Well, it is now time to go ahead and finish that project. We're going to start by continuing to thin down the harness, and then we are going to build an engine harness out of it, something that we can use to run the car. So right now we're going to get started off with thinning out the wire harness. So the battery died on the camera and I didn't realize it and I didn't stop working. So this went a little bit further than thinning out the wire harness like I showed you guys. This is actually completed harness ready to go in the car and have a few things attached to finish it. Let me show you guys what we got going on here. So we have the ECU depinned of all the stuff we don't need and wired up. We've got a set of relays for the ignition, the fuel pump, and the fans. We have the OBD connector, the other diagnostic connectors as well. We have some fuel pump power wires. We have some ignition power wires. We've got some fan power wires over here. Here we have the main power for the ECU and harness, connectors for some sensors, mass airflow, engine sensors, and the igniter. So basically everything over here is all engine harness. Oh, we also have an alternator harness right here ready to go. This is going to be the power for the ECU. All of these wires need to be lengthened to reach the front of the car, so that way all this stuff is accessible. And then we have the ECU and the relays, also with some power wires and groundings needed, but it's all labeled and easy to figure out. Originally we were planning on using more of the Superu harness, but I decided in the long run, this is the way to go. This is going to be much more simple with the American Auto wire harness to interface the two and make everything work. So this is the route I'm choosing to go. This harness is more simple than I originally thought it was going to be. Originally it was gonna be way more complex and all of that, and I decided we don't need any of that. Let's keep it simple. This is going to work perfectly for what we need. The only other thing I need to figure out and wire still is over here. And that is for the vehicle speed sensor for the ECU, so it knows how fast the vehicle is going. Here is our vehicle speed sensor. I need to wire this up, but I need to figure out how long of wires I need on both ends before I can actually wire this up and use it. But for now, we have it. We have the wiring over here because we know it's gonna be going underneath the car. This is a good point to be at with this, because now I can start locating this in the car and figuring out our connections for this kind of stuff. And I can route it alongside the chassis harness that we still have to build to make sure that all of these wires are connected in a good spot on the car. With that being said, we are done with this harness. This harness is good to go. We can now put it in the car along with the chassis harness. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna start working on the car now and getting the car wired up. The goal for today's video is to get the car completely wired and done, or at least get half of it done, like the front half of the car. We'll figure that out as we go. We'll see how much time it takes. So without waiting any further, let's go ahead and get started on wiring up the Volkswagen. All right, guys, so we have the back of the car wired up with the chassis harness. So like over here, we've got our wiring for the right side taillight, the left side taillight, and then up in here, it runs up into the front of the car. So that's all the lighting circuits in the back done. There's 2 more wires I could potentially add in to this, and that would be the oil pressure sensor, which I need to replace that, and then the alternator light for the gauge cluster, because the alternator will sit here and I've got the wire that'll run, and I'll probably end up looming it in with that. And then we'll run the wires for the alternator maybe a different way through the firewall here, where we're gonna be having the engine harness at, because there's the wires for the alternator on this are pretty thick, and there's 3 of them, whereas on the generators on the VWs, they're a smaller gauge. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna probably run it through the holes over here for the engine harness stuff. But that's kind of where we're at. The other thing I'm messing with, which is why I did it the way I did it, is I'm thinking about getting a connector for right here and actually making it so I can unplug the back from the front. So if I need to do something, I'll put a plug here, and I'll also put a plug inside the car. So basically this harness section here is separated from the inside and outside. It'll just be like a left side body harness here, and then I can connect it, making it easier to service if I need to disconnect something. Because what I'd like to do is I'd like to put a plug here, take the back of the wiring out, and then paint the bay once I get everything figured out. If I don't have time to do that, I won't. I need to order some Deutsch connectors so I can build this if I want to. That's still a maybe. I'm gonna think about that. Once I get the whole car wired, I'll think about doing that, and I'll add in my Deutsch connectors at a later time. The nice thing about having connectors though in the car will make it so you can separate it out and make separate harness sections so you can service it. Not that I want to be pulling this car apart a bunch of times and servicing it, but it will be nice to make it a little bit more serviceable in the future. But for right now, we've got the back harness all mocked up, and it looks pretty good. The back's probably gonna be the easiest. The middle and front halves are gonna be a little bit harder. But now that we have the back half done, we can go ahead and we can start kind of working on that middle to front section of the harness. So let's go ahead, we'll reposition everything, and we'll start working on that part of the harness. Okay guys, so the next little part is done on our wiring journey. We have the headlights and the turn signals wired. So we've got our headlight wiring, which is in here, and our turn signal and marker light, which is up here. And it all runs through this now, which I put a grommet in on both sides. There's a grommet. We plugged the hole that the turn signals used to go through because we're not going to use that anymore. And then it's gonna be hard to see, but in here, we've taken 2 small harnesses and made them 2 small sets of looms and combined them into a bigger one to go through the chassis. So that is the front lighting done. So now the lighting wiring is ready to go to its final place up here. For the moment, I'm gonna probably not go past about this point with it. I'm gonna combine the 2 and go to about here. The reason being, right here is a down wire for the brake lights. And I wanna be able to have the harnesses come through here that need to go down for the brake lights here, and then all in the same stretch of loom that runs here up towards the cluster and the relay and the headlight switch. I'm trying to keep all that stuff organized. It's either gonna be 1 or 2 looms, not really sure which yet. While I work on trying to figure that out, I'm probably gonna leave them connected down there like I showed you guys and not go much further than that with the headlights. But I can start wiring up some other stuff. I think I need to start bringing the stuff that's at the back of the car forward that needs to come forward. And then also start working on the instrument cluster and all of that stuff, and then get wires that need to go from the front to the back headed in that direction. So now that we have the headlights and the taillights wiring done as far as they're in their places, I think that's probably gonna be a good stopping point for today. We've made a lot of progress. We got the engine harness all done, and we've got the front and rear wiring in. So I think that's gonna be a good place to stop and take a little break. Next time, we're going to get the rest of the chassis harness built, other than putting connectors in, inline connectors in. That's gonna happen once they get here. I've ordered Deutsch connectors so we can add them in different places and make this into a segmented harness so you can take it apart a little bit easier for servicing. With that being said, as always, I wanna thank all of you guys for watching. If you like what you saw, don't forget to smash that like button. Leave me some comments down below. And if you wanna see more of this project, please don't forget to subscribe. Once the wiring's done, that's the major portion. Then all we have left is the fuel and the cooling system. And then this thing is pretty much ready to go. Once again, thank you guys all for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.